Do you want me to read that?
No, I can do it.
No hanging in, Mark?
Yep.
Mark, how are you sleeping?
Pardon?
Did it make you sleepy?
No, I'm good. I'm good.
That's my bedtime.
We're getting stuff done.
I know.
It's my eventually be in bed.
Not if you show them this week.
This one tonight. Alright, you have both resolutions?
I did.
There should be 3, right?
Two.
The 2 resolutions or 3, Paul? Paul, are the 2 resolutions or 3?
It should be 2, 1 for each of the union contracts and then the one with the drops.
So 3.
I have two. Yeah, but that's.
There should be 2
I'll
for,
give each of the board members ones for the CSEA contracts.
We didn't do them all at once. Oh, general union. I've got 2 general units.
there's
Should be one for highway.
there's one for highway,
This is Exhibit A.
and then the general was included both.
Because I saw 2 of them this morning.
Unless it's in here.
This is both the same.
Oh, here we go. No, this is good.
Because
Which one do you have?
Mark had different numbers for each of them.
Oh yeah, no, there's different numbers for the different ones.
Why
Yes.
is one longer?
Yeah, that's what I have. One is longer.
Mine's
So
one
This is
longer.
what Cindy gave me.
Mark probably had to work out more numbers for one of them than the other.
So John,
So one will be
23 houses?
So one will be 83, 84, and 85.
3 new homes with 1 existing dwelling.
5 terms of 85. Right? Just CSEA first.
Yeah.
All right.
Right, ready, Mark?
Yep.
Okay, we are back in session. No action was taken in the executive session regarding legal proceedings and contract negotiations. However, we do have 3 resolutions that we will consider now that we're back in open session. I'll ask Stephanie to read through those, please.
Resolution number 83 of 2025, a resolution ratifying a memorandum of agreement with the Civil Service Employees Association, Inc., AFSCME Local 1000, AFL-CIO, representing Town of Clifton Park General Unit of Saratoga County Local 846. Now therefore be it resolved, the town board hereby approves and ratifies the attached memorandum of agreement with the Civil Service Employees Association, Inc., unit representing Town of Clifton Park General Unit, copy of which is annexed here. 2, as Exhibit A, all provisions being incorporated into new contract as appropriate, and be it further resolved that the provisions in the previous contract not modified by this memorandum of agreement to remain, and be it further resolved that the comptroller is authorized to issue salary adjustments for non-union employees and department heads retroactive to January 1, 2025, consistent with the CSEA agreement, and be it further resolved that the comptroller is authorized to transfer the unassigned fund balance A00914, $125,967,000, which will cover the union employees' additional salary and employer share of FICA and Medicare, and $26,867 from assigned fund balance to cover the non-union employees' additional salary and employer share of FICA and Medicare, and be it further resolved that the comptroller is authorized to transfer from assigned fund balance G70091 by $6,765, which will cover the union employees of the sewer fund and the non-employees' additional salary and employer FICA and Medicare, and be it further resolved that the comptroller is authorized to transfer from assigned fund balance DA 915 $899, which will cover the non-union employees' additional salary and employer share of FICA and Medicare.
So,
Second.
Okay, can I see something?
Mhm.
I was gonna have you read all of them. All right, so we have two, proposed union agreements. And, we completed negotiations, with what is called the Clifton Park General Unit, as well as the Clifton Park Highway Unit. Two separate, units. They are represented by CSEA. At the end of the negotiations, a document was executed by myself and the head of each unit. The two union organizations voted affirmatively to accept the terms that were agreed upon. And once that vote is completed, it comes back to the town board for full approval and consideration. So just to hit on a couple of the major points, the pay increase for all employees will be 3.5% a year for 3 years. As we talked about during the budget process, we are facing very large increases in our health insurance premiums. As part of that, there will be a 1% increase in the healthcare contributions, 1% per year for 3 years, and healthcare insurance contributions per employee, capped out at 20%. So if currently an employee is contributing 20% of their 20% contribution toward their healthcare, they would not realize the increase. It would only be for employees under 20%. That provides a backstop, visibility, and some stability for all employees into the future, that we are making the commitment that the employees of the town will not be facing more than a 20% contribution of their health insurance premiums. Same as for dental. So those are the major points in the two agreements. This one was, the resolution that was just read was for the general unit. So it's on the table. Is there any discussion?
Yeah, I'll make a few quick comments, Supervisor. First of all, I had the opportunity to be on the negotiating team along with the supervisor. And I'll say this for both units that we're going to put before the board tonight. The process was robust, respectful, over several meetings with each unit, opportunity for a pretty good dialogue. I know on our half, we listened intently to concerns of our employees and their representatives, and tried our best to compromise where we could. So the process, I thought, was very respectful and commendable. Obviously, the one issue that always is a difficult topic, but was especially difficult in this year, was the healthcare, as the supervisor alluded to, the increasing costs there. I can tell you, I personally use our healthcare with 3 children who have normal teenage and young adult needs periodically, and we do offer a pretty strong healthcare plan. But as those costs increase, there is the need to for there to be some increases for myself as a one that uses that, as well as our employees. I think both outputs are fair for our employees. You know, I think we say it all the time, but I can tell you, we mean it. I definitely mean it. We do have the best employees here at the town in both units, and If it was just up to us individually, we would certainly do more, but we are representing the residents of this town. We're not using our own money, we're using residents' money, so we have to make sure we are fair and balanced in our approach to these negotiations, which we were. So I'm proud of this output. I think it is in the best interest of both employee units as well as the town and our residents. Now we have to support both of those.
Yeah, myself and my team at the county in my position as chairman of the Saratoga County Board of Supervisors, we negotiated 4 contracts in about 2 years. And I can say that what's included within these 2 agreements is very competitive in the marketplace. And the increase in the healthcare contributions for the employees was something that we had used successfully in our negotiations with the unions at the county. Every organization is facing large increases in healthcare costs. We haven't spoken much about healthcare here at the town for a number of years. We worked jointly years ago with the union personnel and CSEA and partnered to completely revamp our health insurance offerings, which resulted in significant savings for the town and for each individual employee. Due to the choices that we made at that time, the increases have been somewhat muted when compared to the market. I mean, it's still gone up substantially, but not as much as the market has overall. But this year, it's just another compounding huge increase, 13%, 16% for retirees. It's escalating quickly, and unfortunately, we don't see it getting much better. So it was time that we have this conversation at all levels of government with our employees that work for the taxpayers of Clifton Park or Saratoga County, that a methodical, well-planned way of increasing healthcare contributions that provide stability and visibility and predictability for the team members here at the town and the county just makes a lot of sense for everybody. So that is the reasoning behind the discussion we had on the healthcare. Any further discussion at this time? Okay, Stephanie.
Councilman Riley?
Yes.
Councilwoman Reed?
Yes.
Councilman Minier?
Yes.
Councilwoman Wallet?
Yes.
Supervisor Barrett?
Yes, if you could also next do the highway unit.
Resolution number 84 of 2025, a resolution ratifying a memorandum of agreement with the Civil Service Employees Association, Inc., AFSCME, Local 1000, AFL-CIO, representing Town of Clifton Park Highway Unit of Saratoga County, Local 846. Now therefore be it resolved that the town board hereby ratifies the memorandum of agreement dated March 24th, 2025 with the Civil Service Employees Association, Inc., unit representing Town of Clifton Park Highway Unit, copy of which is annexed hereto as Exhibit A, all provisions being incorporated into a new contract as appropriate, and be it further resolved that the provisions in the previous contract not modified by this memorandum of agreement to remain, and be it further resolved that the comptroller is authorized to transfer from assigned fund balance DA 00915 the sum of $66,874, which covers the cost of salary increase and the employer's share of FICA and Medicare.
Okay. So again, as far as the high points go, same pay increases, same healthcare insurance stipulations within the agreement. Any further discussion on highway unit? Okay, Stephanie.
Council,
So I'm not sure.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Okay.
Councilman Morelli?
Yes.
Councilwoman Reed?
Yes.
Councilman Minier?
Yes.
Councilwoman Wallet?
Yes.
Supervisor Barrett?
Yes.
Resolution number 85 of 2025, a resolution authorizing the supervisor to sign a stipulation of settlement regarding an Article 78 proceeding involving subdivision application for property located at 68 Drums Road, Clifton Park, New York. Now therefore be it resolved, the supervisor of the town of Clifton Park is hereby authorized to execute the attached stipulation of settlement as the terms of the resolution of the above referenced Article 78 proceeding.
So moved.
Second.
All right, so we've had a situation here where an Article 78 was submitted after the planning board had denied a subdivision application in the, it's off Drums Road. It's been a topic of discussion for quite some time at the planning board level, and now here at the town level. After the Article 78 was submitted by the development group looking to construct 23 homes, John?
Yes, 23 new homes.
23 homes. There's also a home on the property where the property owners, I believe, will continue to reside. But when the Article 78 was filed, what precipitated from that was negotiations. We were contacted by the developer to see if there was an opportunity to try to work on a solution. After some extensive changes to the plan that was not approved by the planning board, and there's no doubt, there was some strong points made on both sides during this process, but through the discussions that we've had and keeping the judge informed of what was occurring during this process of discussing possible solutions, what we've been presented with now is what we believe is a very very good solution, final solution to this issue that may preclude us from having this decision rendered by the courts. Now, after the planning board denied the application after a long process, between then and now, we have instituted new regulations that provide the necessity for additional buffering with regard to agricultural areas. And what is in front of us to consider tonight meets that code, maybe not 100%, but and when I say that, it doesn't meet it on what, John, maybe 4 lots?
Yes, sir.
But on the rest of the subdivision, it does meet the code. But it's very close to the new code that was implemented, vetted publicly, and was supported overwhelmingly by a lot of folks concerned about these topics. So what's in front of us tonight to consider, this plan that has been adjusted by the developer, gets us just about to that new code, with a small exception on a few of the 23 lots. And there's also other positive developments that may occur that we are not party to as the town, but additional discussions between the adjacent landowner, Isabel Prescott, who's the proprietor of Rainbow Orchards, and the the developer that is looking to build these homes along and may include the owner of the 100-acre parcel that is part of this, the entirety of the land that is included in this equation. It's a 100-acre parcel. 23 houses are being proposed, and the density allowed on that 100-acre parcel will be extinguished if those 23 houses are approved. For those that remember, we developed a general environmental impact statement as part of an 18-month moratorium back in the 2005 timeframe that did reduce density in certain sections of town, and this area was affected by that. So as far as the 100-acre parcel is concerned, they can get a maximum number of lots of 23 on that 100-acre parcel. So I'll, Mr. Morelli, I know you have some comments about this and probably some information that may be helpful to people following this this process as it's played out through the planning board and now the town board. So I'll let you say a few words now, if you would.
Thanks. I apologize if I'm being repetitive from what you said, Supervisor. So this was a pretty extensive process last year before the planning board. A lot of opposition from a lot of the residents and the agricultural community, rightly so, because this is in this particular parcel surrounded by many farms, but it is zone CR, which allows one resident per 3 acres. And as the supervisor stated, it's a 100-acre parcel, just over 100 acres. So in September, the planning board denied this project. There were several concerns, but the ones of note, there's one key adjacent landowner, and that is, as the supervisor stated, Ms. Prescott, who owns Riverview Orchards, as many, you did.
I said Rainbow, didn't I?
You did.
Riverview, sorry, Isabel. Riverview Orchards.
But the concerns with Riverview Orchards were, as we know, Clifton Park is a right to farm community. We encourage farming. We allow it by law. The buffer that went between this proposed subdivision and Riverview Orchards was 50 feet in their proposal. As you may know, Riverview Orchards grows apples. They apply pesticides. There was concerns certainly by the farm owner about the proximity of residents who are yet to be determined and active spraying of pesticides, those sort of things. So this was a concern. It was a concern by many of our residents, especially in the farming community that we are very supportive of in general, and specifically of this farm as well. So planning board, with their justification, denies this in September. In October, the developer files lawsuit against the town, which is called an Article 78, goes to the Supreme Court, and that litigation has been pending, waiting on a decision from the judge. I would remind everyone that the last Article 78 we had against the town was about a year to 2 years ago in a different section of town, and the town lost that lawsuit. So myself, as well as the rest of the board, the planning staff, clearly understand the implications and risk of litigation and the possibility of losing that and it going, and the developer getting the proposal as last submitted, which was a 50-foot buffer from the homes, the proposed homes, and an active farm. As the supervisor stated, we were approached by the developer, I believe, about a month ago to engage in some negotiations about a potential settlement. From my experience, both as an attorney, being a planning board attorney, as well as taking advice from our very qualified attorney and former judge himself. The outcome, the potential outcome from any settlement is often in the party's best interest and reduces any risk you might have from a judicial decision. So we were certainly interested in doing that. One of the things this also allowed us to do is that lawsuits between the developer and the town. Once we engaged in negotiations, we were actually able to bring in Riverview Orchards, Ms. Prescott, and her attorney into those negotiations, which we did all along through those negotiations. Through those negotiations, we were able to come up with a proposal that's now before the board, and it increases that buffer from the 50 feet that was proposed to the planning board, which was denied in September, which is now going to be at a minimum 125 feet at its very smallest portion, and up to 150 feet in many of the areas of those new homes. And it also includes a 125-foot setback from any primary structure. So as the supervisor alluded to, it is very close to the legislation that we passed as a board after this proposal came before the planning board, which didn't even apply to this proposal at the time. One of the things it does, and wasn't contemplated in the planning process, because the planning board can't compel this, is that buffer is going to be under one single ownership, which adds an additional layer of protection to the adjacent landowner. And my understanding, and I would ask our town attorney to confirm what I'm going to say, the petitioners, being the developer, have agreed to convey that buffer to Isabel Prescott on behalf of Riverview Orchards. Has not yet occurred, but those terms are still to be negotiated, but there is an agreement in principle to convey that buffer.
That's my understanding.
And with that conveyance, Isabel, and on behalf of her farm, is now in support of this proposed settlement. I just want to, I've been involved in these negotiations since Kohler approached us. I've been spoken to Isabel extensively on this, because it was always the goal of myself, as well as the supervisor, the town board, to try to get everyone to a place where we were in agreement. There was never an opportunity to say there would be no homes at this location. This is a CR zone parcel, which allows one home per 3 acres. It's a 100-acre parcel. So at some point, some developer, in this case Kohler, has the right to develop that parcel. So it wasn't so just saying no and having that go to a judge was not going to last very long. So coming up with a compromise that the town, and specifically the adjacent landowner, could live with was important to all of us. And I'll read the statement from Ms. Prescott. She sent this to me. I forwarded it to the board, the town clerk, for inclusion in the minutes, and she gave me permission to read it out loud. To the Clifton Park Town Board, we want to thank you for supporting Riverview Orchards during negotiations to settle the Article 78 appeal between the town of Clifton Park and Kohler Homes. We agreed to this, given the understanding that the developer will be conveying the buffer parcel to Riverview Orchards once the certificates of occupancy have been issued for the new homes bordering the buffer, or within a reasonable amount of time. This agreement is essential, since it will allow us to monitor and enforce the buffer while providing the protections required during our use of approved and normal farming practices. We at Riverview Orchards look forward to many more years of continued farming while providing local food source and open space for our community. Thank you, Isabel Barrett Prescott, owner of Riverview Orchards. So that was within the last couple hours, so I'm pleased to say she is on board with this proposed settlement. I would note the resolve that the town clerk read into the record states, the supervisor of the town of Clifton Park is hereby authorized to execute the attached stipulation of settlement as the terms of the resolution of the above referenced Article 78 proceeding. So we, as a board, if we vote in the affirmative, we are authorizing Supervisor Barrett to sign the stipulation, but my understanding and my expectation, which I believe is of the entire board as we discussed, Supervisor, is that you would not be signing that without that conveyance of the buffer actually having taken place in writing. So having, with that understanding, my recommendation is that we vote for this settlement in the affirmative, allow the supervisor to sign the stipulation once he deems that the conveyance of the buffer has occurred. And that last thing I would say is I would commend all the parties involved in this outcome, which I think is in the best interest of the town, Riverview Orchards, and also the landowner. And that is the town board, the planning board, the developer themselves. Kohler has been very, they've been easy to work with, and they've been desirous of a settlement. The engineer, I believe that was EDP, John Scavo, our town planner, Paul Belligali, our town attorney, who's been involved with this extensively, and then all our volunteers on our advisory boards who have let us know their input and advice all along the way, as well as the residents that spend many late nights at planning boards helping flush out what I think now is an outcome that we can all live with. So thank you to all those involved. I think the process in this instance worked, and I would recommend to my colleagues that we vote in the affirmative for this resolution.
Yeah, I think it's important just to point out, if we won the lawsuit, a new plan for homes would definitely be submitted. And the planning board, as they followed the newer code with additional buffers, they would be compelled to approve basically what we're considering here tonight, with very, very little difference between the two. If we did not engage in these discussions and let it go to the courts, and we were not successful in winning this lawsuit, the eventual plan would be, when compared to what we're considering tonight, a very negative outcome. So I thought you explained that very well, Mr. Morelli, and I just want to drive that point home. So if we had won, the planning board would get a new plan that would look basically the same as what we're considering tonight. If we lost, the outcome would be a very negative result as far as buffering and other elements of the plan as it was denied. Now, this was John. This was socialized with the planning board.
Yes.
And what was their general reaction?
Feedback was generally good. There was a consensus that the plan that they looked at was substantially better than the plan that they denied and went above and beyond the code requirements at that time.
Yeah. Now, I'll take the developer at his word. The reason he reached out to us was basically that he lives in town. He does not want to be adverse with the town, and I think the result of the discussions that we've had, as that Article 78 is still hanging out there, and as I said, our town attorney and the developer's attorney have been keeping the judge apprised of what is occurring as far as the discussions are concerned. They didn't want to be adverse to the town or the residents, and that is why initially reached out and wanted to engage in these discussions. So I think that's a good encapsulation of what we have in front of us tonight. Is there any other comments at this time?
The only other-
Discussion?
The only other thing I don't
Yes.
think was mentioned is this proposal ends up preserving 52 of those 100 acres
Yeah.
from further residential development, which in and of itself is in the CR zone is very important to that section of town. And we were able to do that through clustering those homes together. But that is also a big win for preserving open space.
Yeah, between the cluster zoning and the density that's allowed, it maximizes the property that is permanently preserved. And when I said the density is extinguished, they can't come back on the other portion of the 100 acres and build another 5, 10, 20 houses. This accounts, these 23 homes account for the fully allowed density for that 100-acre parcel. Any further discussion at this time?
Yes, I would just
Yes.
say it was a lengthy and at times frustrating process, but I'm very, very pleased that we were able to come to a reasonable solution that seems to benefit all parties mutually. And knowing that the farm owner who is trying to operate her farm on adjacent land is in agreement and pleased here, I think is very important. We talked about right to farm laws, and we're doing all of this comprehensive study for protecting farmland in Clifton Park. So this is right on point with that. And as we talk about, you'll hear many times mentioned 4 permanently preserved farms in town. Riverview Orchards is one of them. She sold her development rights to the town. So she made the commitment to Rexford, to her orchard, to farming. She has no other option. She can't sell that down the road. She doesn't want to live next to those homes. She can't develop and put houses there. She made a full-time commitment to keep her farm there. And I think it's very important that what's done with this development honors her right to farm. And it does seem to be the best course of action and a good resolution to this lengthy process.
Yeah, and her ownership of the buffer is a huge positive in this whole equation. Now, I said in the beginning, we're not party to it because it's a private transaction between the landowner and Isabel from Riverview Orchards. So we're not party to that, but we do express our support for it within the stipulation. So that is something that we are very interested in seeing that occur. We'd like to see that happen, that transaction be consummated in writing very soon. And that's definitely something we'll express. Now, I know there's another conference with the judge tomorrow. They're eager for an update. The landowner's eager for an update as to where things stand. And it was important that after a fairly lengthy time of working through this process that, there would be a time, might be today, might be tonight, there would be a time where the availability of an option like this would no longer be allowed by the landowner, and they would just push it to a court decision. So there is a time factor here based on the timing of the conferences with the judge, but also the limits as to the time frame that the landowner would allow this process to continue. Any other discussion at this time? All right, if there is no longer any Any discussion? Stephanie, if you would call the roll.
Councilman Morale.
Yes.
Councilwoman Reed.
Yes.
Councilman Lanier.
Yes.
Councilwoman Walla.
Yes.
Supervisor Barrett.
Yes. All right, we've gone through the whole agenda. It's now 10 o'clock.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
To adjourn.
So,
Councilman Morale.
Yes.
Councilwoman Reed.
Yes.
Councilwoman Lanier.
Yes.
Councilwoman Walla. Supervisor Barrett.
yes, thank you.